Well, greetings to you. I've had a number of questions over a broad range of things vis-a-vis the gold page, if you will, and people are asking questions, which I thought so many people are asking the same questions. I thought I'd just cover that in one little short clip. In no order of great importance, the word on the street, and you will have heard it yourself, is that we will be expecting, and they've almost given the game away, some form of cyber attack thing that's going to come. And it seems that the city and Wall Street are preparing for some kind of event like this. I have no idea what it is any more than anybody else. But obviously there's going to be something happening, and I don't know what it is, but one thing you can be sure about the way the world is at the moment, it won't be in your interest. If you're an ordinary guy or girl going about your business as perfectly sort of normal citizens, trying your best, you'll find that it won't be in your interests because the world governments in the main, or certainly the Western world governments, are a kleptocracy. So they're there to steal your money wherever they can. And they're running out of ability to tax people because people are taxed to death, and they'll be coming up with something else, make no mistake. Leaving that aside, what do we know? What do we think? What's the word perhaps on the street? And that is that the amount of gold that central banks are buying, which is now in very significant quantity, is very likely to be revalued when the accumulation by the central banks has completed. And we saw a historical perspective on this with Roosevelt in the 1930s when he confiscated the American gold, American public's gold. It became illegal, broadly speaking, to hold gold as a citizen, and it was snapped up at a price suitable to the government. And as soon as they'd snapped it all up, they revalued it upwards, of course, which was possibly one of the greatest heists, if you will, in history, which nobody seems to really talk about outside the mainstream of gold bugs and chaps like myself who care about these things. Most people don't seem to bother with it, but it was a great heist, and there we are. So, just to explain that very briefly and perhaps oversimplify it, is that if you're holding gold, as the central banks are, and generally speaking, it's accepted that the price of gold in dollars, the reserve currency still, is $2,000. When you've accumulated all that you wish, the central banks then get together and revalue it at $3,000 an ounce. And then it's a wonderful way of actually balancing your books with a stroke of a pen. The only people resisting this at the moment, I think, are the Fed. Because they want to protect the reserve currency, which is the dollar, of course, and they don't like gold. They hate gold. We also don't know whether they've got the gold. They're supposed to have one of the biggest gold reserves of any country on the planet, but we don't know that because it hasn't been audited since, I think, 1958. And when the Germans wanted their gold back, suddenly it isn't available. It takes years to send even half of it back. So we're not quite sure whether they've got it. And why they are so frightened of an audit. So that's something we don't know. I don't know either, I'm sorry to say. But we know that something dodgy is going on, but it does look like there will be, it's in the interest of central banks to revalue gold upwards. And central banks always do what is in their interests, in the interests of the banking industry, not you. But of course, a revaluation, if you're holding gold, is very nice because it goes up as well. They can't devalue yours and put up theirs. That's a possibility of a revaluation. When that's going to happen, I think it's going to happen, but whether it's going to be this year or next year or even the year after, I simply couldn't say. I'm just giving you the heads up on it. I get a lot of requests about silver, and I've said the same thing before. There's a premium on silver, and if you are a British citizen, there's VAT on silver, obviously of 20%, and it makes it an unsustainable as an investment. However, I had my fingers burnt, actually. I bought silver in quite a big number a few years ago, thinking that £25 an ounce was cheap, and it went cheaper. So I got my fingers burnt. So I don't get everything right, and I don't think I've ever pretended to get everything right. So, and we're talking the long term. In the long term, generally speaking, I get things right. In the short term, you can get your fingers burnt. But now, if you don't take delivery, if you leave it with a reputable dealer, and you'll find reputable dealers on my website, if you leave it with them, if you're comfortable to leave it with them, I have an account with Pure Gold and Baird and others, and so does my wife, and they're on there. Should you wish to do so, but if you don't, if you can get them for 20 Gold Britannia, a Silver Britannia, which is 1 ounce, at 20 or 21 or 22 pounds. Don't forget the spot price is moving all the time. So whatever the price, no point of giving you a price now because the price will be different this afternoon. But silver really is, generally speaking, reckoned to be very cheap. There's a ratio between gold and silver, which is historic, and I'm very long-term historic. At the moment, the ratio is something like 90 to 1, so that's 90 bits of silver to 1 bit of gold. That's pretty unprecedented. It's normally much less than that. You know, you would expect maybe 40 or 50 or 60 historically, although it does tend to move about a bit. So we know that it is undervalued, grossly undervalued. We also know it's an industrial metal, and it doesn't move quite the same way that you would expect gold to do in the short term. It is speculative. It is speculative. But if you like a flutter and you don't mind a little bit of speculativeness in your portfolio and your reserve, it's not a bad buy at the moment if you're prepared to hold and leave it with whichever bullion dealer you choose. So you leave it there, and then you won't pay your VAT. And when you sell it, of course, you can sell it for cash over the telephone. It's not quite as solid and safe and reliable as gold from a price perspective. But I do have to say now it's got to a stage where the price is so cheap. It's still a premium. It's still at a premium. And that's the reason, whatever the silver spot price says, you can't really buy it at that price anywhere in the gold. There's a premium. It's a technical aberration, if you will. So you think, why can't I buy it at spot like I buy gold at spot, maybe spot plus 1.5 or spot plus 2 or so on and so forth. And you can't do that. It's nearly like spot plus 10% or something of that nature. That's just how it is. But if you escape the VAT by not taking delivery, that makes it a deal. In my view, I'm going to have another little tickle at silver myself. That might put you off. The other thing is a number of people from overseas. I've got a number of overseas subscribers. There are problems with delivery to France. France isn't really set up for having these kind of deliveries of gold. If you take gold or silver, if you decide to take delivery, it's not easy. Britain's very easy, and America's very easy on this. You know, the way of getting your gold or silver coin and so on here is really facilitated. It's jolly good. It's not quite so in France, and there is a compliance commitment on all bullion dealers. They're all the same. They have to tick the boxes to make sure that you're not a drug dealer or money launderer, all that kind of thing. It's very annoying and time consuming. There's nothing that can be done about it. So if you are in a situation which isn't totally straightforward, just all bullion dealers will do their best to try and sort you out. But just bear in mind, nobody's trying to be difficult. It's just that's the way it is. So I'll just leave you with those thoughts just by way of a catch-up. And I hope you get on well. By the way, there's something else I knew I wanted to say. I have a number of bullion dealers posted on my website, some of whom, not all, help with the cost of the website by affiliated marketing. It's not a big deal. It just keeps it ticking over. So it's not a big deal. I have absolutely no idea who buys any gold or doesn't buy gold or silver. It's nothing to do with me. But if you speak to those people, they're all very good. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on my website. If you have a problem with anything that's on my website, or you don't think you'll be treated right or fair or square by any of them, if you get on to me, I'll know. And then at least I can take them off my site as not reliable. The site's been in its current form now for 1.5 years, and I've only had one problem, and that was a woman who I think was slightly retarded, who couldn't understand what the concept of a movable bid price was, a spot price was. But I stepped in and I managed to get all her money returned and all the rest of it, and she went away, but she was bonkers. Leaving that aside, you'll find if it's on my website, it's normally pretty okay. It's normally pretty okay, and if it's not okay, you let me know. As most of you know, my work is very heavily independently research based, and I get my information from all over the world. It would help if you press the subscribe button and the little bell next to it, because the more subscribers I have, the more likely it is that international independent research institutes will share their material with me. It's most helpful, and then of course I automatically share it with you. So surprise, won't cost you anything. Thank you very much.